Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Welcome to a decidedly not quite as stupid o'clock. This is another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. And yes, folks, slightly more awake than usual, but still, it's still 5:26 a.m. in the morning. No one in their right mind should be up this early but truck drivers. Just saying. That being said, before we go into today's episode, we got a little update in the Stop the Shocks campaign that came across as of yesterday. So let me go ahead and get that pulled up and go over with you before we go into the document that we are going to continue to go over this morning. So this came via Twitter through the Autism Self-Advocacy Network. And I gotta find it, so gotta give me just a minute here. Yeah, I know. I should have prepared this earlier, but damn it, I'm barely awake. Okay, here we go. So this is from the Autism Self-Advocacy Network. So, ASAN is glad to see the FDA has asked for a review of the decision that struck down the ban on devices used to torture people with disabilities. It is critical that the full court move swiftly to reinstate the ban and prevent further torture. And this is going to be the full statement. We will go ahead and probably go over that during the weekend. I do usually want to keep things to what we're usually going through during the weeks. But weekdays, my weekdays, not your weekdays. Call centers are different. Did I mention I'm still not awake in spite of it being 5:28 a.m.? Anyways, so some good news. We've been waiting to hear from the FDA for at least 2 to 3 months now. If they were going, not July, August, at least 2 months. We've been waiting about 2 months now at this point to see if the FDA was actually going to go ahead and fight the overturn of their ban on the shock devices. And it looks like they are going to go ahead and fight it, thank God. So I will definitely keep you updated as they go ahead and challenge the court ruling. So that being said, let's go back to where we were yesterday. And let's not forget our disclaimers, shall we? All right, folks. For the document we've been going over now for almost the last 2 weeks, you are going to find a link to it in the description box, as well as other pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign. For the love of God, you see the impact that these templates are having? Please put your name in, click on your senator. It's the most important 2 minutes you're going to spend in your entire day, your entire year, possibly your entire life. Also, we have the change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition because let's face it, folks, even with the FDA fighting back, there's no guarantee that they will be able to get the DC Circuit Court's decision to be reversed. These bastards keep fighting their way into continuing their abuse of these kids. The only answer I see is to close this place down. So please sign the petition and circulate it around. Okay, so we are going back to the Judge Isaac Bernstein's retired recommendations in regards to the incident that happened back on August 26, 2007, where two students were shocked over 60 times due to a prank caller who was a former resident calling in, pretending to be a supervisor, and having them shocked. So, going back to where we were, Concurrent events at the DVR monitoring center. Oh, and by the way, if you are new to this channel and you have no idea what I'm talking about, but it all sounds horrific, I agree with you. If you want to know a little bit more, hit the description box. My original first video as of April, when we first learned that they were still using the shocks in spite of the ban that was in place at the time, click on it and watch it. It's hard and disturbing to see, but it will go over just what we are talking about. Okay, moving ahead. Concurrent events at the DVR monitoring center. Blank was responsible for watching the Stoughton residence that evening. He told investigators that he viewed the residence according to standard operating procedure and did not notice anything amiss until sometime after 4 a.m. Okay, you really are a JRC loyal diehard, aren't you, dude? It wasn't anything amiss. Your whole center's a miss. But anyway, the DVR recording system indicated that Blank did not view the Stoughton residence from 12:45 a.m. to 4:41 a.m. Immediately upon starting his shift, Blank began to checking work emails. Failed to complete the following tasks according to the standard operating procedure. Scroll through the residence views regularly to check for unusual activity. Call each residence at the start of the shift to identify himself as the monitor for the shift, and use his headphones to listen to each residence. Blank went on break from 3:30 a.m. to 4:15 a.m. and Blank covered both Blank residences as well as his own, 22 in total. Oh, so you're gonna scapegoat the monitor. Why am I not surprised? Oh, it's not the staff's fault. No, it's not JRC's culture that's to blame. It's the staff and the monitor over that particular incident. They're bad seeds. Bullshit, Judge. Major bullshit. They scapegoated and fired these people to save their own ass. It's what they do. But moving on. Blink did not look at the Stoughton residence during that time because he had worked there from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. that day and knew that there were no incidents. All three reports were found inconsistencies in Blink's recitation of events. In other words, you're blaming him for the actions of the staff when both parties are at fault. If we are going to look at this from the judge's point of view, my point of view, all of it is wrong. All the time, no excuses. But if we're going to take the judge's mindset here, then wouldn't you say that both the monitor and the staff deserve the blame? They were the ones who did not question orders. They did not check with the monitor, did not call his office even once, just to make sure to see if that is him on the phone or not, like a normal person would do. Just saying. Moving on. At 5:12 a.m., Blank called the Stoughton residence several times before he was able to get through to anyone. The residence staff were reluctant to speak with Blank and were arguing among themselves. So why were they reluctant to speak with him? If they thought that they were speaking with the monitor, who was supposed to be observing everything, right? Then why would they be uncomfortable with speaking with him? That's nonsensical. Oh, for the love of God. Why, in the name of God, if you have the actual dude on the phone, would you not try and confirm by asking, saying, hey, weren't we just speaking to you earlier? At 5:45 a.m., Blank spoke with Stoughton staff and told them to take Paul No off the board, and then Blank then drove to the residence. According to Blank, he was assigned 11 residences to monitor that evening, in addition to his assigned students who were on the watch list and required constant monitoring. Oh, you mean people like Jennifer Masumba who dare tell you you're full of shit? And they probably had my camera on my ass 24/7. One of these students lived in the Stoughton residence and required Blank to check him every hour. Blank further stated that JRC used to assign one DVR monitoring staff member to monitor the watch list, while other DVR monitoring staff would scroll through all the residents' views. Blank has stated that although there were written DVR monitoring staff assignments, there was no written break schedule. At the start, okay, what the fuck does a break schedule have to do with anything? Why does that matter, Judge? Why does that matter? I can't with this judge. I can't. At the start of his shift, Blank says that he called each of his 11 assigned residences to let them know he was to monitor that night. Blank says that when he called the Stoughton residence, a sleep aide answered the phone, as the supervisor was in the bathroom at the time. According to Blank, he took his break from 3 a.m. to 3:45 a.m., then drove to the Stoughton residence at 4 a.m. after he discovered something was wrong. Prior to leaving for the Stoughton house, Blank called the scheduling manager to ask permission to drive to the residence. He also spoke with Blank and told her he would call her when he arrived at the residence, and they would contact the DVR monitoring supervisor. Indicates that when he spoke to the DVR monitoring supervisor, she told him to dismiss all the direct care staff at the Stoughton residence, which Blank questioned out of fear that he would not be able to supervise all of the students himself. Just fire them all, even though they were doing the things you taught them to do. Events immediately following the incident. Blank from DVR monitoring was the first person to arrive at the Stoughton residence after Blank, the assigned DVR monitor for the residence. The weekend supervisor was notified at 6 a.m. to 6:45 a.m. JRC's senior administrators were notified of the incident. At 8 a.m., Dr. Matthew Israel, he shouldn't be a doctor. He should have his license revoked and he should never be allowed to near another disabled person ever again. Glenda Crooks and Robert Duquette arrived at JRC and began to interview the staff. The relevant state agencies, as well as the Stoughton police, were notified of what had occurred. According to DPPC intake forms, the first call was made to the agency at 3:10 p.m. on August 26, 2007 by Robert Duquette. That afternoon, Mark Poe again called the DVR monitoring center, where two DVR staff recognized Mark Poe's voice. Mark Poe claimed credit for calling the Stoughton residence that night before. JRC terminated Blank immediately. JRC took all the students off the GED immediately, except for a small handful of students who were moved to a single residence, where a clinician monitored all GED applications 24 hours a day. Oh, because that makes it okay. As long as it's being monitored by a clinician, the shocks are okay. God, Judge. How much did they pay you? JRC administrative staff notified all parents and guardians of JRC's clients regarding what had occurred and what steps the JRC was taking in reaction to the incident. You could have closed down. Administrators also immediately began meeting in large groups to discuss what went wrong on the night of the incident and what changes should be made to prevent something similar from happening in the future. You could get rid of those GED devices. You know, Put them in a pile? Throw a stick of dynamite? It's a thought. And eventually terminated all 6 Stoughton staff members. James Rowe and the unnamed third victim were removed from the program. John Doe remained at JRC, but the GED-4 was removed from his program. Oh, but I'm supposed to have sympathy for you, but he's not on the GED-4 anymore. Well, what did you put him on next? Your food starvation program? Your sleep deprivation? Okay, so folks, we're going to go ahead and bring it to a close here. So what I take from this morning, what we have read so far, is this judge, he likes to create scapegoats to make the JRC look good in this manner. How anyone can think they can make this sinner look good is beyond me. But that seems to be what he's doing here. He spends over half of this report bending over backwards to justify their entire sinner. And then once that's done, he goes and makes scapegoats of the staff that were a part of that incident and the person that was supposed to be the monitor at the time was saying, well, they're all fired, so. No, Judge. No. The JRC has created a culture where this type of unquestioning behavior from their staff, where that mentality is created to obey without question, to torture without question, to brutalize without question. They've created that culture. The fact that these staff members didn't even think to check. I'm just saying, that should speak volumes to you. But no. You would rather bend over backwards justifying all the abuse and the torture and the psychological trauma these bastards cause vulnerable people because they're lining your pockets. If there is a hell, just know, Judge, one day you will be held to an account. That's all I got to say on the matter. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and close out, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So, folks, feed that algorithm for me. Don't forget to hit the like button. Hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit the comments. I do want to pre-warn you. Football season has begun. If you see any videos on my channel about football, you're just going to have to excuse me, okay? I'm a little bit of a rabid fan. Just putting it out there. Folks, don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit the comments. Again, feed that algorithm. I do appreciate your time this morning. And as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.